Today, I'd like to talk about the oil price decline and all the narratives around the market. And I first want to say generalizations are only true when you're generalizing, and I'm generalizing. Okay, so the narratives, it seems to be that the US is heading into a recession. Our 10-year bond hit 370, and the market has priced in that we're going to experience 140, 145 points BIP cuts over the next 5 months, okay? Bringing us from 5.25 down to what, 375, somewhere around there, right? Then the second narrative is that China's slowing down, okay? And this is now because we're going into recession and China's going into recession, and then OPEC comes out and says they're going to increase their production 180,000 barrels a day, okay? And then 5 days later, they rescind this for 2 months, okay? Now let's think about this. OPEC's been around since 1960. They formed OPEC, believe it or not, after they met with the Texas Oil Commission and said, oh, this is what we should do, all right? There's a little history for you. So, this has to be considered at least one of the most successful cartels in history, and more importantly, I would say, the one that's made the most money by far, not even close. So they have access to everything. They have the best geologists, they have the best oil people, they have the best economists, they have the best pipeline, shipping, you name it. OPEC employs the very best people in the world on oil. And think about it, they're involved with everything from pipelines to shipping to every aspect of the oil business. In other words, the most successful cartel in history, they're not actually stupid people, all right? So why would this highly sophisticated, highly educated, experienced through wars and everything with the oil prices over the last 60 years, that they then go in the face of what the narrative is, and raise 180,000 barrels a day. Now remember, they produced 34 million barrels a day. They're going up 180,000. Last year, they did 34.2. So this little raise is a little less than last year, okay? But the price of oil gets absolutely hammered. And then, embarrassingly, I would say to them, they have to pull back and say, we're not going to do this raise for another 2 months, okay? So, either these people and their economists said, the world's not going into recession. And remember, we've had like 10 Fed members come out and say, we're not going into recession. Goldman Sachs this morning came out and said, we're not going into a recession. They said that our employment numbers are going to go from unemployment from 4.2 to 4.25 by the end of the year. Certainly not depressionary numbers. So the question is, okay, there may be a risk on the horizon that we're going into recession/depression. Pick your poison, okay? And the numbers don't indicate that we're doing this. Now, there's a third narrative out there, which is all over my feed, is that the government's just lying about every single number, okay? Frankly, if you're in the market, all right, and you're trying to trade it or invest into it, the number one thing that you must control is your prejudices, okay? We all have them. But in the end, this world of ours, this financial world, is hooked back to the real world. Sooner or later, it goes back to the real world. Many times we don't actually see it, understand it until it happens, but this is what happens, okay? So saying that just, well, the numbers are fake, well, you're not much of an investor, okay? So what could have really happened, all right? We know it's the yen carry trade, all right? You can look on my feed. I put up this other guy today saying we're just starting, okay? So when you think about what happened last week, it was consistent selling of the oil, and by the way, of the US stock market, which makes sense. You're gonna have to sell something to go back and cover you're yen short. Why is that? Well, the yen carry trade is you bought the yen, you borrowed it, and then you went and bought other securities in other countries, okay? Or you bought oil, all right? So, now that you have decided, all right, that the yen carry trade is going to unwind, then the question is what do you sell to get yourself in a better risk position? All right, so I can tell you, a large firm or a large asset manager, the first thing they look for is their biggest, most liquid market that they can take a hunk out of it and reduce the risk. You know, you're not talking about investing anymore. You're not saying, well, should I buy NVIDIA or should I buy ARM? That's not the discussion. The discussion is, hey, we have to reduce our risk, and we mean right now. So you don't go out and sell some little micro stock, right, that you have. You go to your biggest and your deepest markets and you hit the bid, okay? So, do we have any proof of this? This is what of the oil net managed money position, which means asset managers. Look at what's happening with oil here. It has plummeted, okay? So this is up to now, all right? So last week, the financial contracts on the oil contracted, all right? Meaning they were selling them, all right? So oil has gone down, and all I'll say is look at Monday's action. So the selling kind of like dissipates, you know, whoever was making their move last week finished it by Friday afternoon, okay? And now the market yesterday pops right on the opening and just stays there because everyone's waiting. What's going to happen? And so here's the situation that you have. What does this mean to us? Well, what narrative are you going to believe, all right? Are you going to believe that all the government numbers are fake, okay, that we're actually deflating? We already have a 10% unemployment. Someone actually said that. Or is it that other factors are happening in the world? We have the money flows of the world. They're like, you know, the tides of the ocean. And once they start moving, there's very little that can stop a tide, okay? So last week they picked oil and I think the big tech stocks to liquidate to reduce their risk position on the yen carry trade, all right? But, as we already know, this is the biggest trade in the world. It may take a decade, some experts say. I'm not expert, I'm just saying they say. So, what are you gonna do? What narrative are you gonna believe? You're gonna believe the Fed who says we're not going into recession, that unemployment isn't going up. China is slowing down, but is it slowing down that much? I mean, yesterday came out a news item that they're buying oil for their SPR. So there's something else going on here other than the oil market and economics. And what it is, it's the financial world. The financial world is transitioning into a new world. And that means you're gonna have to sell something to buy something else. What do you think? Like and follow? And certainly give me your comments.